The prediction nobody saw coming. On March 11th, 2026, the sitting president of the United States pulled a 29-year-old YouTuber turned boxer on stage at a packaging facility in Hebron, Kentucky, and told the crowd something nobody in that building expected. Trump said he was going to make a prediction that Jake Paul would be, in the not-too-distant future, running for political office, and that he had Jake Paul's complete and total endorsement. Jake Paul had not announced a candidacy. He had not declared a party affiliation. He had not filed a single document with the Federal Election Commission. As the New York Times noted the next morning, there was no announced race, no ballot, and no office to campaign for. And yet the President of the United States handed him an endorsement, unprompted, on a live stage with cameras rolling. One widely shared post on X captured the surreal tone. It said that Jake Paul had a presidential endorsement before he had announced what he was running for, and that politics in 2026 is genuinely unscripted. Understanding what actually happened in that room and what it means requires understanding who Jake Paul is, how deep his relationship with Trump actually runs, and what the Constitution says about what he can and cannot do next. None of those answers are simple. Whether this moment is a publicity stunt, a political preview, or the opening move of something real is a question that has no clean answer yet. But it starts, as most things with Jake Paul do, with a kid making videos in Ohio. Who Jake Paul is. Jake. Joseph Paul was born on January 17th, 1997 in Cleveland, Ohio, and grew up in the suburb of Westlake. His father was a real estate agent and roofer. His mother was a nurse. It was a completely ordinary middle-class upbringing in a small Ohio town, the kind of background that produces, by normal metrics, ordinary outcomes. In September 2013, a 16-year-old Jake Paul created a Vine account. Before the platform shut down, he had accumulated 5.3 million followers and 2 billion video views. He transitioned to YouTube in 2014. By 2016, he had landed a role on the Disney Channel series Biz Aardvark, playing a character who performed dares on camera. Disney fired him in July 2017 after he set furniture on fire in a drained pool, and his content became too provocative for the network. It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. Without the Disney contract limiting what he could post, Paul leaned into controversy as a deliberate strategy. His channel exploded. Forbes ranked him among the highest-paid YouTube creators of the 2010s and the 2020s. He founded a venture capital firm called Antifund, launched a men's care brand called W, and through Antifund backed several startups including companies in the fintech and defense technology sectors. Celebrity Net Worth estimates his total net worth at $200 million. Forbes ranked him third on its top creators list in 2025, with an estimated $50 million in earnings that year alone. Then came boxing. Paul started fighting professionally in 2020, beginning against other YouTubers and moving toward retired athletes from other sports. Critics dismissed him at every stage. He beat a former basketball player, former UFC fighters, and eventually Mike Tyson, who was 58 years old at the time, in a November 2024 Netflix fight that drew 108 million total viewers worldwide, with Netflix reporting around 65 million concurrent streams at peak, making it one of the most watched live streaming sporting events ever. Then came Anthony Joshua. Joshua is a two-time unified heavyweight champion with an Olympic gold medal. He stood 5 inches taller than Paul and weighed significantly more at the weigh-in on December 19th, 2025. Some analysts speculated that a Paul victory would rank among the biggest upsets in boxing history. It did not happen. Joshua put Paul down 4 times before finishing him in the 6th round with a straight right hand that broke Paul's jaw in 2 places. Paul was taken to the hospital, underwent surgery to have 2 titanium plates fitted and several teeth removed, and posted an X-ray of the double fracture on social media the next morning alongside the caption, "Double broken jaw. Give me Canelo in 10 days." 3 months after that surgery, he was on a stage in Kentucky next to the President of the United States. What connects the boxing career to that stage is not fame alone. It is a specific political relationship built over 2 years that most people outside Paul's core audience did not fully register until March 11th, 2026. How the relationship with Trump actually built. The connection between Jake Paul and Donald Trump did not begin in Kentucky. It began in the 2024 presidential campaign, and it was more substantial than a typical celebrity photo opportunity. In June 2024, Trump appeared on Impulsive, the podcast hosted by Jake's older brother Logan, for a roughly 45-minute interview. The appearance was part of Trump's deliberate effort to reach young male voters through alternative media. He appeared on numerous podcasts and live streams targeting younger audiences during that campaign cycle, almost exclusively on platforms with large young male followings. Jake Paul's involvement went further than just hosting a guest. In October 2024, he released a full endorsement video urging his followers, described in the video as an 80 million strong audience, to vote for Trump. He donated $10,000 to the Trump Save America joint fundraising committee. He told his audience not to let their favorite pop star decide their vote, and he framed supporting Trump as the way to quite literally save America. He also could not vote himself. Paul moved to Puerto Rico in 2023, and Puerto Rico residents cannot participate in U.S. presidential elections. After the election, Paul continued posting public support for Trump's second-term agenda, including backing ICE operations. By the time he showed up in Hebron in March 2026, their relationship had been active and mutually reinforcing for nearly 2 years. Trump calling him on stage was not random. It was a continuation of a pattern. At the rally, Paul told the crowd, "What Mr. Trump has taught me is courage. We never back down from a fight, even if they're much bigger than you. Much, much bigger than you." The line worked as a boxing reference. It was also literally true given the Joshua result. The man's jaw was still held together with titanium when he said it. After Paul stepped back, Trump delivered the endorsement. He called Paul a great guy, a courageous guy, a talented guy. He added that Paul is a hell of a fighter, by the way. He then said he predicted Paul would run for political office in the not-too-distant future, and he gave his complete and total endorsement. The two were later seen on a TikTok video Paul posted himself, performing Trump's signature dance together backstage. Paul has not formally announced plans to seek any office. He has not declared a party. He has not named a race, a year, or a position. As Newsweek confirmed in a fact check published the following morning, Trump did not endorse Paul for a specific office or ballot. He made a prediction about a candidacy that does not yet exist. What the conversation about a potential political future actually looks like depends entirely on what office is being discussed. And that is where the Constitution becomes the most important part of this story, because the answer is more complicated and more immediately relevant than most of the coverage has suggested. What the Constitution actually allows. Most of the media coverage framed Trump's endorsement as a gesture toward a presidential run. That framing has an obvious problem. Jake Paul is 29 years old. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5 of the U.S. Constitution requires the president to be a natural-born citizen, to have been a U.S. resident for at least 14 years, and to have attained the age of 35. Paul does not turn 35 until January 17th, 2032. He cannot legally serve as president until that year at the earliest. The 2028 presidential election, the next one, arrives when Paul is 31. He is constitutionally barred from it. But the presidency is not the only office Trump endorsed him for. Trump said political office, a phrase that covers a much wider range of possibilities, some of which Paul is already eligible for right now. The U.S. Constitution sets the minimum age for a House representative at 25. Paul is 29, he is already eligible. The minimum age for a U.S. senator is 30. Paul turns 30 in January 2027, before the 2028 midterm election cycle reaches its filing deadlines in most states. As Newsweek noted in its fact check, Paul could legally run for Congress as a U.S. citizen who meets the age requirement, provided he meets applicable residency requirements for whatever state he runs in. That last detail matters. Paul currently lives in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico does not have voting representation in Congress. To run for a House or Senate seat, he would need to establish residency in a U.S. state. That is not insurmountable. People relocate for political campaigns with regularity, but it is a real one that any serious campaign planning would need to address before anything else. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. So the realistic map of what is actually possible, given the law, looks like this. A House run is possible now. A Senate run becomes possible in January 2027. A presidential run is constitutionally unavailable until 2032. Trump said political office. He did not say which one. The Paul family's political track record. Jake Paul is not the first member of his family to float political ambitions, and the backstory there is worth understanding because it shapes how seriously, or not, to read the Kentucky moment. Logan Paul, Jake's older brother and the host of Impulsive, has repeatedly joked in interviews about running for president. At the Wall Street Journal Future of Everything Festival in 2022, he looked into the camera and said, "I, Logan Paul, will be running for president in 2032. He had previously made similar comments as early as 2020, saying on a podcast, "Before I die, I will be president of the United States. And honestly, I will probably be a very good president." In one interview, he jokingly suggested Jake's role in that administration. Jake is Secretary of Defense. Jake himself has not been quiet about the idea either. In 2021, he told Overtime that he and Logan would flip a coin to decide who runs for president and who runs as vice president, adding, "I might be president, he might. He's more PC and he's likable, where I'm like the villain." In September 2025, Paul posted what he called a 5-year plan on social media that included, among other goals, starting a presidential campaign. The consistent pattern across all of these statements is that none of them are formal announcements. They are content. The Paul brothers have built careers by saying things that generate attention, and political ambition, especially when delivered with a wink, generates enormous attention. Logan Paul's 2022 declaration at the Wall Street Journal Festival was widely covered, widely mocked, and did not result in a single campaign filing. Jake Paul's 2025 5-year plan was posted to social media alongside goals like becoming an undisputed heavyweight champion and fighting on the moon. None of this means the political interest is fake. It means the line between a content strategy and a genuine political intention is genuinely unclear and has been for years. Trump's endorsement does not resolve that ambiguity. It amplifies it. What happens next, and why it is uncertain. The forward question here has 2 very different versions, depending on which office is actually being discussed. If the conversation is about Congress, specifically a House seat in 2026 or a Senate seat in a future cycle, then the timeline is short, the constitutional barriers are already cleared, and the question becomes whether Paul would establish state residency, file paperwork, build campaign infrastructure, and compete in a primary. That is a real sequence of steps that requires real decisions in a short window. No evidence exists, as of March 12, 2026, that any of those steps have been initiated. If the conversation is about the presidency, the timeline stretches to 2032 at minimum, 6 years from today, across an entirely unpredictable political landscape. Logan Paul has been talking about his own 2032 presidential run since 2020 and has not moved toward a formal campaign. Jake Paul's 5-year plan post listed a presidential campaign alongside a boxing match on the moon. The presidency framing generates the biggest headlines, but it is also the version of this story most insulated from any near-term consequence. What is documentable right now is narrower and more specific than the coverage suggests. A sitting president endorsed a 29-year-old influencer boxer for unspecified political office at a rally in Kentucky. The endorsee has not announced a race or filed any paperwork. He is constitutionally eligible for the House today, the Senate in January 2027, and the presidency in 2032. His family has been joking about running for office since 2020 without following through, and his relationship with Trump is real, documented, and mutually beneficial to both of their brands. Jesse Ventura, a former professional wrestler, was elected governor of Minnesota in 1999. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a bodybuilder and action star, was elected governor of California in 2003. The celebrity to politician path in America is not unprecedented. What is unprecedented is the specific combination of social media reach, boxing celebrity, Trump proximity, and constitutional timing that Jake Paul currently occupies. Whether Trump's prediction is a signal, a marketing move, or both, nobody in Hebron that day could tell the difference. That ambiguity is not accidental. In 2026, it is the whole point. The Constitution sets a floor at 35 for the presidency. For everything else, Jake Paul is already old enough. The only question left is whether he actually wants to do it. And as of today, he has not said. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.